Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live Sneakerhead call-in show where members of the channel get to call in on video and give their opinions on the 49ers, take us down whatever topic they want to go through. The theme for tonight's show is going to be around rankings in the NFC West. Where do you believe the 49ers will fall, and what are the remaining rankings of the other teams there? Is Seattle primed for a rough year? Will Arizona finally have a complete season? Are the Rams due for a Super Bowl hangover? All of those questions and more are the ones that I want to get into today, obviously, along with anything you guys want to hit up as well. I appreciate all of the sneakerheads here in the chat. We got Charles Thurman already in here in the building. We got Sean 9519ers coming in from Boston. Sean, that is nearby to where I was born and raised, out in Winchester, Massachusetts. Yes, sir. A little East Coast blood running through my veins. Raphael 5629ers coming in to say, what's up, Rob, Sneakerheads, and everyone. We got Nathan Dickey in the house saying, all I want for Christmas is a Trey Lance start. Sean Walker, Sneakerhead, here on the channel coming in. Rob Schuh, you doing a roundtable tonight? We would like to do a roundtable tonight. We will see, who comes in, who sticks around after their call, see if we can't get 3 individuals together with myself to go through some roundtable topics. If you have topics that you want hit there in the chat, hit me with @Rob or @Rob Schuh for topics you want covered throughout this show. Whether you're a sneakerhead or not, you can always get involved in the dialogue through the chat. Chris Royal, Sneakerhead, here on the channel. What's up, faithful? Yes, sir. Dan coming in. Dan Rostek coming in. Hey, everyone. Gold-blooded in the house, talking about 12-5. I love 12-5. Let's make it 12-5, gold-blooded. Let's make it. Brian Culp, Sneakerhead, here on the channel. What's up, faithful? Alan Elizer coming in @Rob Schuh. Good evening, you, and on the chat. Tom Bragg coming in. Dirk Pippin, Sneakerhead, here on the channel, coming in, talking to the other Sneakerheads as well. Eric Schultz in the chat. Man, we got a live chat. You guys probably want me to get into this. Enough schmutzing around. Well, I got to recognize Kelts Chronicles coming in. Fire Rice Hoodie, bang, bang. Archie coming in with the super chat. Niners will be number 1. You heard me say it here. Niners. Archie with the bold prediction. I absolutely love it. Jerome M, Sneakerhead, here on the channel, coming in to say, hello, family. I appreciate all of the positivity. All of the positivity. Dirk Pippin coming in to say Niners 2019 draft got regraded, Rob Schuh, from a C to an A. Hey, sometimes you got to look back in time to really know what kind of a grade that draft deserved, right? You need to see how those players work out in the NFL. All right, we are going to get into this. I am going to drop one more time the link that takes you to the community tab, where if you are a sneakerhead, you will find the link that takes you into the back stage with StreamYard. Here is that link. We got a couple of people waiting down below right now, so we are going to get into it. Again, if you've got topics that you want covered on this show and you're over there in the chat, hit me with @Rob or @Rob Schuh, and then whatever topic it is you want to get hit. Right now, we are bringing into the program, you know him, you love him, bringing in Korean 49er. Korean 49er, how you doing, man? Uh-oh, we lost audio. We lost audio. Come out and come back in. Okay, you got it. I just hit the wrong background to take that off of there. Let me get my banner off. Oh, now I can leave my template on there. We will bring in Korean 49er testing right about now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Audio is crisp. All right, let me get that thing out of here. We are good to go. How's your day going?
Not too bad. A little tired from watching that Calgary versus Edmonton old school hockey game last night.
Oh, nice, nice.
So, one piece of advice for you, Rob.
Okay, give me some advice. Give me some advice.
Since the baseball season is still going on, when that first when you're coming to Chicago,
Yes.
I would recommend you hit up Wrigley on that Friday before the game. The Giants are in town, and it's a day game, so you get to hit 2 classic stadiums within a year.
Yes, I absolutely want to do that. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I do follow it. I do have a fantasy baseball team, of which I'm not going to, a little humble brag for a guy who doesn't follow baseball that much. I crush it within the fantasy league, but I love going to games. To me, there's such a difference. Baseball is one of those sports where it is exponentially better in person when you're there at the ballpark. And I'm a big fan of historical context. And certainly Wrigley Field is one of the richest baseball stadiums out there.
Just make sure you don't get a seat behind a beam or the beam directly in front of you.
You do not want that. We had seats like that at Candlestick Park back in the day, where you could, at Candlestick, get stuck behind a frickin' beam where you paid good money to look at an iron girder. And that is not what you want to pay money to see when you're going to see the 49ers.
No, or any team in particular.
No, nor any team. That is correct. Correct. I wanted to recognize Troy. I believe what Troy's saying here is he has been a sneakerhead now for 4 months. Congratulations, Troy. Appreciate the support. Okay, so what do you have on your mind, Korean 49er? Before we get into the NFC West rankings, what kind of topics did you have on your mind with relation to the Niners and where they are right now in the offseason?
Got couple points about that. First question for you, Rob, is what if Jimmy actually goes to the front office and actually requests to be cut? What do you do? Because I know that undercuts the front office belief they could recoup an asset or 2 for him.
Yeah.
But I know that Jimmy is probably tired of getting, everything thrown at him, good or, all the bad stuff. And, he says, hey, I just want to try to get a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think that's too far out of the realm of possibility. And Charles Thurman, Sneakerhead here on the channel, came in with a similar request for a topic. What's the verdict on Jimmy G? I believe there's absolutely a scenario where Jimmy comes to the front office, comes to John Lynch, and does officially request a trade, whether he does it himself in person or whether he does it through his agent. Not a trade, I'm sorry, a request to be released, because he could look at this as a potential worst case scenario that the 49ers hold on to him with the intention of trading him, not hoping, but counting on the fact that perhaps there is an injury throughout the league that then forces some other team into a bit more of a desperate situation, calling for Jimmy Garoppolo. But there's also the very likely possibility that never happens. And the 49ers hold on to Jimmy as a insurance policy throughout the summer. And then we get close to week 1 and they balk. They say, well, we don't want to guarantee his salary week 1. We're going to come to Jimmy. We're going to ask him to take a pay cut. Jimmy may say, no, I'm not taking a pay cut, at which time the 49ers would need to cut him. And if they wanted to avoid the guaranteed $25 million salary, $27 million salary. But at that point, if the Niners do blink and they do cut him, then Jimmy's without a job. So you would think that Jimmy's priority is to either get traded sooner rather than later or get cut sooner rather than later, so he has a chance to catch on with another team. I just don't know if the 49ers would grant that. They seem to be extremely stubborn at this point in time in telling themselves that Jimmy Garoppolo is worth something, which I happen to agree with, but in insisting that they get that value in return. And I just think that fails to take into account where the quarterback market is right now. So that's my fear, is that the 49ers may actually hold on to him when the wiser thing to do would be to let him go. Do you see them as being that stubborn right now? Or do you think they will concede and release Jimmy Garoppolo if he were to request it?
I believe they're really, at least some parts of the front office are really stubborn about wanting to keep him. The organization traded a second-round pick, and he got you to 2 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl. That's more than enough for a second-round pick.
Yeah.
I think they already recouped that value.
Good return on investment, right? You got what you wanted out of that relationship. Dan comes in to say, I think they'll only cut him as a last resort. That's kind of the vibe that I have. Gold-blooded coming in to say, I have a bad feeling he's going to be competing for a starting job in San Francisco this season. Now, I'm not a Jimmy hater, felt he was the best decision last season, and the team came one drop pick away from number 6. I agree. I'm not a hater. I thought it was the right decision last year. But this year, it feels so much different. And I hope that Gold-Blooded is wrong on this one, that he's not going to be competing for that starting role. That feels like just a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, body language-wise, I'm not crazy to think here, Korean 49er, that Jimmy felt like he checked out of the organization in that goodbye speech, right? I mean, when you watch that, when you watch him say goodbye to the reporters, to the fans, that felt like a final goodbye to San Francisco, did it not?
It did. Jimmy could also say, just don't even keep me on the active roster. Just if worst came to worst, just deactivate him every week. If that worst case scenario ever happened, not to
that
say
would definitely be worst case scenario to pay him the money and not get the benefit. But it could get ugly. You would think in that case they would release him prior to week 1, and fingers crossed that that's what they end up doing. All right, so if that was the topic you had coming to the table, let's talk a little bit about the one that I'm excited about in the rankings in the NFC West. Do the 49ers have a shot at taking home the title for the NFC West? Do you think they are the most talented team? And if not, who do you have? Let's go worst to first. Who do you think sits there at number 4 in the NFC West?
I believe Seattle's the worst because you got rid of 2 of the best players in your franchise's history in one
Bobby
offseason.
Wagner, Russell Wilson, both gone.
Yep. Number 3, I would say the Cardinals, just because you still have Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach, and if he manages to find ways to win, more ways to win this season, good for him. But I still think he's a little bit of an anchor for them.
I agree. Until he proves it to me, I just can't have faith that he won't begin to fall off the second half of the season. It seems to be his MO, the team's MO.
And number 2, I have the 49ers, just because until you knock out the champion, you can't knock out the Rams. You have to be at number 2.
Yeah, so you're going Niners 2, Rams 1 because they proved it last year, and until the Niners de-seat them, then they hold that number 1 in your mind?
Yes.
That makes sense. I believe that I am trending towards labeling the 49ers as the most talented roster within the division. I'm not sure that they will land at number 1. I need to go through and do a full schedule breakdown on all 4 teams within the division as we get closer. But I believe right now I'm aligned with Tom Bragg here, saying we should be regarded as the favorite in the NFC West. Also, do agree with Gold-Blooded here, saying those Rams games will say it all. And by the way, if we don't smoke Seattle, Carroll just flat out owns San Francisco for life. We do need to beat Seattle this year. I mean, does it feel like with how much talent they lost, does it feel like the statement needs to be sweeping Seattle? Would you be comfortable with a 1-1 record against the Seattle Seahawks, given all the talent that they let walk this offseason?
If the 49ers win number 6 and you went 1-1 against them, I don't care. It's like
that's a great point.
Let me put it this way. If I'm a Packers fan and they went 1-1 against the Bears and they went to the Super Bowl and won it, they're not going to care.
Right. That is very true. Hey, if you get that Lombardi, all else is forgiven. I don't even care if you go 8-9 in the regular season, somehow, some way, sneak your ass into the playoffs backwards, and then number 6. Hey, I'll take that, right? Like those giant Super Bowls where they came out of nowhere, got hot, and then beat the Patriots, they still count as legitimate Lombardis, even if they were very strange seasons.
Exactly. I don't think any Giants fan is taking back, hey, we just snuck in and just found ways to win. I don't think anyone who's a Giants fan cares.
They're not discounting the David Tyree helmet catch, right? They are counting that as a full-fledged Super Bowl victory. Yes, that would be nice. So I agree that not everything hinges on whether or not the Niners beat Seattle. but it would feel sweet in my book to sweep Seattle and really begin to change that narrative of Seattle having the upper hand on San Francisco. That's an annoying truth that I hate to admit.
Yeah, just nice to win, beat them twice this upcoming season, but if it doesn't happen, they still make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, it's not going to matter at all. No one's going to say that the beer was less cold because of we didn't beat Seattle, or that pizza wasn't that tasty because we didn't beat them. It's like, okay.
I feel you on that. I am bringing in gold-blooded right now. I'm not being a homer, he says, but this defense is going to be 19-ish or better, if healthy, by the way. You watch. I agree wholeheartedly, but would take it exponentially further. I believe this will be a top 5 defense if healthy. Got to throw that if healthy disclaimer in there. I see this as an elite defense on paper. I'm hoping that it shakes out that way. What's your level of optimism for the defense?
I think top 10's about right. I mean, if you're giving up the least points, to me, that's the number one defense. I don't care about if you give up 350 yards passing every game. If you keep the points to a minimum, that's all I could ever ask for. It's not that we're going to resurrect the steel curtain or the 85 Bears defense and instill that in our defense. So, I mean, those defenses don't exist anymore.
Yes. It is rare to have a punishing defense that obliterates opponents. I mean, you could almost say that since Ray Lewis retired, that you really didn't have that level of physicality on a defense. Our defense in 2011 was pretty elite, but yeah, I mean, we have not had one of those that was just knock your socks off amazing. Even in 2019, it left some room to be desired in certain aspects. I believe this unit could eclipse that 2019 season. That to me is my goal. I'm with Dan here saying 2019 defense-ish, but I'm going one step further. I'm saying maybe better than 2019, which was elite. And Kelts agrees. This D can be top 3. Why not? That's a good question. Why couldn't it be top 3? Fantastic. I love it. All right. Any other points you want to bring to the table, my friend?
You got to stop discriminating against Chicago-style hot dogs, man. Come on, man. And yes, okay. When you're in Chicago, get a Maxwell Street Polish. You'll like them.
Maxwell Street Polish? Okay. Yes. Now, okay. So what is the entirety of a Chicago hot dog? Am I correct in saying that it is tomatoes, relish? Is there onions on there? Is there mustard and ketchup as well? Is it
no
like
ketchup,
the whole works?
No ketchup.
No ketchup. Okay, that's good. No ketchup is good.
Celery salt.
Celery salt. That's right.
And the little sport peppers.
You know, I mean, I'm going to give it a day in court. It's the tomatoes that throw me off. I'll be honest. It's the tomatoes that throw me off. Everything else, I'll give a day in court. I'm a pretty simple guy when it comes to Polish sausages, hot dogs. It is spicy brown mustard, light sprinkling of onions, and that is it, my friend. So I'll give it a day in court. Fear me coming in with the emoji game on the hot dogs. Let's see what people are thinking, whether there is an opinion on hot dogs. It's not a very violent reaction to me not liking it. But James wants to know, do you know Jenny's Ice Cream? Is that a famous ice cream spot?
There's a more famous spot I'm aware of in St. Louis, Ted Drew's.
Ted Drew's. I am an ice cream guy, so I will certainly look up a good ice cream spot. I feel like Chicago's a pretty good food town altogether. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. Even the thin crust pizza in Chicago is good too. So, but Maxwell Street Polish is a Polish sausage with mustard. I don't know if it's either just plain yellow mustard or spicy brown with grilled onions on top.
Ooh, now we're talking. Grilled onions. Kick it up a notch. Dirk is with me. Dirk Pippin saying tomatoes and ketchup and no mustard. Hell no. Wait, no, there is no ketchup. It is mustard, but no ketchup. Tomatoes and mustard, which then again, a little bit interesting for sure.
Yes. So
James is saying Jenny's ice cream is overrated anyway. So it's a good thing that that's not a famous one that you were familiar with.
Maybe I went there once and I don't recall it. You never know.
Yeah, so. if it wasn't special enough to write home about, then that's what it is. That's what it is. I'm like, ooh, this one I may get to try. Tom Jensen, Sneakerhead here on the channel. Fenton's in Oakland, great ice cream place, memorialized in Up. Hot dogs, mustard and onions only. Tom, my man, mustard and onions only. I'm telling you, that's where you cut it off. But now I've got a recommendation for Oakland, Fenton's, and Swan Song coming in with Mitchell's ice cream in San Francisco. I've got a couple. Oh, Dirk Pippin is all over Mitchell's as well. Man, I need to get some ice cream tonight. Now I'm hungry already. This show is taking a foodie turn, just like the other night.
As long as you don't do one of those crazy eat 10 of spicy wings challenge, that's your own doing and choice there. So
I will stay away from that. Although I get the comparison that whatever that guy who does like that Hot Wings interview thing, like someone has told me that I remind them of that guy, that somehow, I don't know whether it's the way that I talk, the way that I look. I haven't watched very many episodes, but yeah, someone has said I should do that wing challenge because I remind them of that dude.
I think I've tried one of those hot wings challenges before, and I've stopped at like halfway through just because I can't handle it anymore.
Spicy things, and this guy, they mix moderately, but not like uber spicy. Not the kind of ghost pepper, like, oh, let me see if I can make myself sweat and throw up at the end. I'm out on that. I like spicy flavor, but there's got to be flavor, not just heat for heat's sake.
Yes, and if you like Polish food, remember, Chicago has the highest Polish population outside Warsaw. So
I do like some Polish food. I love me some spätzle. Oh, get me some of that. Gold-blooded is talking my language. Man, I miss the dogs at the Stick. The Stick had epic freaking Polish sausages with those delicious freaking buns. And they had the Guidon spicy brown mustard at specific condiment stations only. And there happened to be one by my season tickets. And I got a freaking Polish sausage with spicy brown mustard and onions every single time I was at Candlestick. I have eaten hundreds of those for sure.
Well, you got to come try to experience some of that over in Chicago. So
I will.
Thank you, Rob.
Most definitely will. It's been great talking to you, Korean 49er. Appreciate the call.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. All right, we are going to bring in Swan Song to the program, and I like a couple of looks like we have a topic. Charles coming in with the topic. Please feel free to throw topics into the chat, what you want to hear spoken about. Swan Song coming into the program. Swan Song, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Rob?
I am doing very well. Nice and relaxed today. Looking forward to a nice weekend. There's a couple of good things happening in Portland. It looks like the weather may be turning. We may actually get into spring. Like we haven't had a spring yet. Just earlier today, we had hail, I don't know, just a couple of hours ago. So that's sort of the weather pattern that we're in. April is usually the weird month in Portland where you get a day where it's sunny, raining, hailing, raining, sunny again, and steam coming off of the frickin' pavement all within like 45 minutes. It is very temperamental weather, but that's what's happening now in May instead of it already being springtime. So we're all ready for a change in weather here.
Very nice, very nice. And SoCal is either hot or not so hot.
Yes. Now, are you in the Bay, Swan Song? Are you out there close to San Francisco?
No, I live in Southern California. My brother lives in San Francisco. That's how I know.
Nice. You talking LA area, San Diego, or Orange County? Or maybe Inland Empire?
Orange County.
Orange County. That's where I used to live, the OC. I was down on the border of Costa Mesa and Santa Ana, right by South Coast Plaza.
I know exactly where that's. I used to work near there.
Yes,
I used to work at First American Title.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right in that area.
Nice.
My sister lives in Costa Mesa also. The weather is beautiful there.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Orange County weather. There's a reason it's so damn expensive to live there, and it certainly coincides with that weather and proximity to the ocean.
So the one thing that you could try, I'm spoiled here because they actually have one here, which is kind of weird, but it's mostly a Chicago chain, is Portillo's.
Portillo's. I have heard of that. Someone mentioned Portillo's, I think advising me to maybe stop there for a quick bite when I was out in Wisconsin, because I flew in and out of Chicago, Dallas, not Dallas, whatever that one is, Midway or something like that. And someone advised that I stop off because apparently there are multiple around the Chicago area.
Yeah, you get the Italian beef and sausage.
Oh, that's what E. Kim has been telling me about, getting an Italian beef and sausage. That is on the list now. Totally on the list.
It's great. So
I am looking forward to it. Plus, I got to get some goddamn ice cream after everybody talking about ice cream in the chat, man. Making me freaking hungry for Dirk Pippen coming in talking about chocolate caramel crackle. God damn.
Oh, wow. Gotta try that. Yeah, that's what I love about Mitchell's ice cream is that they have so many different types of flavors that are because jackfruit is mainly an Asian fruit. So I went there because my brother introduced me to Mitchell's like 10 years ago. Nice. And then he brought home a tub of jackfruit. I'm like, jackfruit? Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And so then it's awesome though. It is amazing. I don't know if you ever had the fruit, but both the ice cream and the fruit are both amazing.
I love that people are all about the food in the chat too. Rohan coming in, screw the football talk or like a food show. I'm telling you, make this a food show. We need to. I get pretty excited about food, as you can tell. We have Salt and Straw here. So Salt and Straw started in Portland. Now it's expanding all over the place. It's in the Bay Area. There's one by my brother in Burlingame. There's ones in Colorado, a couple of different spots. Southern California has a Salt and Straw, and they do crazy flavors as well. Every month they do different flavors. Around Thanksgiving, they do Thanksgiving themed ice creams, and they go so far as to do a turkey flavored ice cream. It's salted turkey. It has dried, freeze dried pieces of turkey skin actually in the ice cream. It's about as weird as it sounds, but when you combine it, you can get as many tastes as you want when you go into that shop. When you take a taste of that, you get the turkey hits you. Then you get a little bit of the sweet potato one that they have with the marshmallows in there and the cinnamon sugar. That gets to you. They have one that's stuffing, so now you're back into the savory, but then you hit up the goat cheese pumpkin pie flavor that takes you to Flavor Town. I'm telling you, I could talk about Salt and Straw ice cream for a while.
So I wanted to comment on a couple of things. First, of what I saw in the chat, I don't think we are one dropped interception away from winning that Rams game because we had.
I don't either.
Yeah, we had 2 chances to move the ball in the fourth quarter, and we did it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that last drive felt like you're like, this can happen, but it's not going to happen. I felt like completely hopeless. I felt like this is possible, but you're like, it's not possible. I don't know.
It's the same. It's very similar to me to those people that say if only Jimmy hadn't overthrown Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. It's a different game if he catches that for a touchdown, but we weren't stopping anything at that point. I have very little faith that it would have actually changed the outcome of that game. And I agree about Jaquiski Tartt. Would it have given us a hell of a chance? Yes. Could it have been the collapse of Matthew Stafford to where his confidence was never regained and he threw another pick to end that game? Yes. But I don't think it becomes a sure thing.
Right. We'll never know. So the thing is, of course, we have another week of nothing to say, right? Because we knew it was just going to be focused on either Trey or Jimmy. So this week it's Trey, right? With all the slander that we've been hearing about him. I think with the media, like anything else, is what they do is they want to not only, so they have their cake and eat it too. Meaning they'll have someone say the wildest stuff about a player, right? And of course, talking about Trey Lance makes sense. 49ers have a huge fan base. They know fans get triggered over Trey, right? Because
Yes,
it's
they
one
do.
thing it's one thing to talk about Zach Wilson or what's the guy in the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, right?
It's not a story because those are bad teams, so it
Right.
doesn't move the needle at all. So
No.
of course you're gonna pick on Trey, right? Because he's on the 49ers, huge fan base that travels well. I have a friend, a Steelers friend, right? We went to the Dodgers game the other day, and he's like, "Man, you guys are going crazy with your fan base." It's like, because he's been a long time. I mean, he's seen it before as well, right? He's a long time Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but he's like, "You guys went crazy this year." He's like, "I saw you guys everywhere," right? And I go, "Yeah, fan base is pretty nuts." So I think the media cashes in on both, right? They have some guy talk crazy about Trey, and then it's so all Trey has to do is just his bar is set low. So then if he does have a good season, then it's like this huge story. Like, oh my God, where did this come from? You know, like, look at this.
Out of nowhere with low expectations.
Right.
On the best roster potentially in the league. Right. But let's underscore the fact that let's sweep that under the rug so that it becomes a bigger storyline. I agree. I think the national media absolutely wants to play on the popularity of the Niners, wants to play on the wide range of outcomes that you could see from this team. It's fair to say that, we don't know for sure what we have in Trey Lance. I think anyone can admit that if they're being reasonable. However, I believe it's fair to assume that we have a lot of talent in Trey Lance and that he will be successful. But I admit that there is every possibility. It could be a rough transition. It could take him a while to get up to speed. And if you have a bad quarterback or bad quarterback play, even if you have a good run game and good defense, it's possible to let a lot of games slip. So the Niners could be a mediocre team this season. I think that's very unlikely. But that range of outcomes is very enticing for that national media, especially when they have a hungry fan base like us who will eat up anything and respond like mad villagers with pitchforks when you come at our quarterback. And they play on that. They absolutely do.
And if you see the points that they've been listing, like talking about his arm talent, like that is like probably the worst one that they could actually go with because
the strength of his arm. Are you kidding me?
So it's like, if you just pay attention to the things we like about Trey, the things that I saw in the Texas game and throughout, the season. He has arm talent, mobility, and for him to operate in and outside of structure. Like we've seen that, especially the Texas game, because, you saw him do the quick slants. You saw him do the quick game. We saw those things. We saw him extend plays. We saw him come back, and they always say like, oh, we haven't seen Trey. It's like, what do you mean you haven't seen him? Like, we actually had to win a must-win game and no one talks about. Like, dude, that was a must-win game. Like, if he doesn't win that game, there is no Week 18 heroics. There are no playoffs.
Right.
There's nothing.
Right.
So it's like he was losing. We were losing that game 7-3. And for him to perform after that says a lot because he could have easily folded. Right, because that's what you expect from a bust, right?
Absolutely.
Like a bust would have folded, and he did it. He stepped up and they won the game. And he could have had he got a TD robbed from him, right? Like that running TD that was on him. He could have had 3-4 TDs in that game, in that second half, even.
I'm telling you. I want to bring in Rohan's question here because he asked one direct, and I love that. So anyone in the chat, you want to ask direct questions, throw it in there. I will get to these topics. Rob, question for you. What's your biggest criticism of Shanahan? This is an interesting one, and I'd love to hear yours as well, Swan. Mine has to be the big moment issue. I think that it is something that is very real, and I equate it to, and I've said this before, so I apologize if anyone feels that I beat this analogy to death, but I can only speak of things that I know about me, the experiences that I've been through, and relate those to something that Shanahan's gone through. I've not been a head coach in the NFL. I have no idea the level of pressure that feels like. But my guess is it's a freaking lot. Like a freaking lot. When the game is on the line in a freaking NFC Championship game or in a Super Bowl, I'm guessing most human beings would fold in that moment. Shanahan has had some regrettable decisions. He has acted, I would say, somewhat erratically in those moments. And the way that I equate it to something I've been through is playing cards, playing poker, being at a table where regardless of how much money I'm risking, that feeling of pushing all of my chips into the middle and risking them is a high stakes moment. And when I do that, the first time I do that in any night, even if I'm playing friends for $40, or if I'm at a casino and I've got, I don't know, $800 I'm shoving into the middle of the table, either way, my heart starts racing. Like I'm less able to do the calculations of what my outs are on that particular hand, what my percentage is for winning it. And I tighten up. But as I progress, as I go through more of those moments, especially in that same night, I get looser. And each time I make a better decision. So I see Shanahan as getting tight in those moments, but I don't think it's a fatal character flaw. I believe the more moments like that he is in, the more reasonable voices he surrounds himself, like an Anthony Lynn, the better chance he has of acting accordingly in those moments and making the right decisions. Swan, what's your biggest criticism?
Yeah, that's a great one. And I totally agree with that. I'll just offer another one, 1.5, I guess, because the verdict's still out on the half one. One would be, I guess it's a pro and a con. So like the Shanahan system is complicated, right? And it's complicated because it gives them more versatility in that complication of where a play can go, right? So I think it's a way for the team to react more, but at the same time, with that complication, the negative part of that is that it takes a while for players to actually get into the groove when that becomes when that can be leveraged, when that versatility can be leveraged, right? Because you have all this verbose system, right? You have a verbose system for what? So you could be option, you could be many things at once, right? But the problem with that is that it doesn't happen until it happens, meaning you can't plug and play a player as much, right?
Yes.
Because there's a level of complication. So you can't just get some guy off the street and go, oh, yeah, he's just going to be awesome. Unless it's just like Trent Williams or something, people that play in positions of where it's a vacuum. Right.
Ironically, he was able to do it with Jimmy that one time, but that was an anomaly, right? We've not seen it any other time with any other player.
Right. And then also that's also a unique thing because at that time, it's kind of like, they're a last place team.
There was nothing
lightning
to lose.
In the bottle. Yeah, nothing to lose.
Like what the hell do you have to lose when you're that bad that season?
Yeah. So I think, and the other half would be, the other criticism I would have is, and we don't know yet, is that he still hasn't ever developed a QB, and his bedside manner with Jimmy, sure, I guess he can become impatient after, 5 years, but he was impatient after the second year. So it'd be interesting to see what that bedside manner is with Trey, right? Because they're different now, because he's
Does
a rookie.
He have patience?
Yeah, and I feel that, he's a grown man and he's a mature kid, and I'm sure his dad seems like a pretty strict dude, so I'm sure he's fine with that, So, but at the same time, you still have to be, positivity. I think is going to be better.
Yeah, he is young. Right? He is a millennial. Like there is a difference. These generations are changing, and the way in which you interact with people needs to change as well. You can't just be static in believing that you have one way in which you communicate to people and one way only. And if I'm going to say a criticism of Shanahan with the doghouse scenario, that's another one. Is the inability to flex in the way in which he seems to want to communicate, sending a message to a player. It feels as though he only has the one note that he can play, which is, well, you're in the doghouse. You got to earn your way back out of it. That seems to be his default instead of pulling someone under his wing. I mean, look at the relationship he has with Deebo Samuel in the comfort Deebo feels and being able to go into the office. Now, maybe that's because Deebo's a superstar, but if he could develop that type of rapport with another player, maybe that type of treatment would have been more beneficial for Brandon Ayuk, for example. Yeah. I just think he could improve his tool belt in that regard.
Yeah, and I don't feel that comfortable commenting on that just because we don't know, like, I don't know what it is to be a coach, and I don't know what it is to treat different personalities, right? Because some might work as a coach, you would think you want to switch it up depending on the type of person you have, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. It doesn't look great with Brandon because he looks like an introverted person, and if it was because Shanahan thinks he should be a certain way, but he's an introverted person. You have to adjust to that. So
exactly.
I don't know.
And I can't speak to that from experience, not as a sports coach, not as a head coach, but as a coach in a sales organization with many different personalities, that as a manager, as a people leader, as a director, like if you have direct reports in any way, you can be a better leader, a better manager if you can vary your communication style, because people prefer different styles of communication when being given feedback and when being asked to do things.
Yeah, definitely. And it's hard because I would think, like, I always equate football to, like, say, war, or what I think of what war is.
Yes.
It's kind of like you kind of have to make these decisions quick, and sometimes it's just gotta happen. Like the NFL season's so fast and all these moving parts and things got to move a certain way. You're dealing with 100 people or whatever it is, and it's just sometimes it probably just doesn't have time for it. I don't know.
Absolutely,
it's hard to it's hard to criticize that one, but I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying.
All right, I want to take Dirk Pippin's question here and spin it into the NFC West rankings. I want to get your opinion on it. Dirk comes in to say his question is, how many wins will the Niners have this year? I went through and did my schedule prediction, and I come up with 11. I see the Niners at 11-6, but I freely admit that 12-5 also feels pretty right, because I think I'm being reasonably pessimistic, reasonably safe in my predictions. So I can flex up to a 12-5, but I'm landing at 11-6 right now. How many wins, when you look at the schedule and the way it came out, how many wins do you think the Niners are getting in a way too early win prediction?
Yeah, assuming everything is healthy and things like that. I mean, I see that range. Like, I would say 11-6, 12-5. There's even outside chance of 13-4 if everything's healthy, right? Obviously, if we're not healthy, then who knows what that record could be, right? Because if we, I don't even want to say it, but you get what I'm saying. It's like that could definitely happen. But I think last year they did a pretty good job of, like, hey, they had a mission that we're going to stay healthy this year, and I'm pretty sure that's still going to be on high alert in their heads, right? Because that the injury bug can happen at any time, and they're going to use last year as a kind of a recipe, like, hey, we were successful, obviously, because we did have some injuries late, but for the most part, we stayed healthy, right?
Yes.
Like all the positions that we needed to stay healthy stayed healthy. So I'm going to stick with the original 11-6.
Boom. Rohan is in there with us at 11-6 as well. And I agree that it is crazy to think that such a good record is being pessimistic. That's the talent that is on this roster. Jason Walsh agreeing, reasonably cautious right now, being reasonably cautious.
I do think that the 49ers have a great chance of winning the NFC West, and we know that the Rams, won the Super Bowl, so you have that
the
Super
team
Bowl
to beat.
Yeah, they're the team to beat, and they have the Super Bowl. Like, sometimes I think teams that repeat are those generational dominant, when it looks dominant, right? Where they just kill everyone throughout the playoffs. I didn't see that in the Rams game. Like, every game that they were in it could have gone either way, except their first game, their first playoff game. Like, everything else was just like, okay, they could lose that game, and up to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're that team, right? So they're going to have a slump just because you've won. You've eaten. Are you as hungry?
Right.
Right.
Right. You got that ring on your finger.
Yeah, and like what you said, every team is going to want to play to you because you're the champion.
Yes.
So every game is going to be
the best of everybody.
Yeah, and they're going to be hyped. They're going to be hyped to play. Oh, we're playing the Super Bowl. They're the measuring stick, right, for the team.
Plus, your stadium doesn't really have the home field advantage. So all these teams coming in are going to have loud crowds behind them.
Very good point. Very good point. And every coach, what he's going to say, hey, we're going to find out how good we are today.
That's right. We're taking on the champs.
So and then more of a practical sense is they have 2 games harder on the schedule than the Niners do. The Niners don't play Green Bay. The Niners don't play the Bills. We get the Bears and the Dolphins instead. Like,
That's a great point. I will take those matchups.
And then they play Green Bay at Green Bay. That is in December.
Man, I know what that is like. That is cold.
Yeah, and the Niners, we know we could travel.
We're a physical team.
Yeah.
LA, physical, kind of. Not really.
They're surfing. They play in the dome. Come on.
Maybe Aaron Donald's physical, but aside from that.
Yeah, so it's like, I'll take the Bears and Dolphins over Green Bay and Josh Allen and the Bills. Come on.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that unless it's in the damn Super Bowl.
Yep, exactly. So, I think we have a good chance of winning the NFC West. And
I love it. Johnny Robinson agrees. We are taking the West 100.
I mean, if everything works out the way that we think it's going to work out, and I feel so good about Trey. I can't wait. I can't wait that OTAs. I can't believe it's on Monday. Like, I was thinking that was going to be another week, and then I saw that it was going to be this Monday, and I was like, oh, yes, we're here.
Crazy. Man, good stuff. Good stuff as always, Swan. I always like our conversations.
Me too. Thanks, Rob.
Absolutely. I will talk to you again soon, sir.
See ya.
Take care. All right. We are bringing in a remote guest. He's coming in from near Rob Schuh's place of birth. We are bringing in Sean 951 Niners from Boston, coming in all the way from Boston. How you doing here, Sean?
Doing good, my man. Doing good.
Back the car and have it, yeah. Yeah, every now and then I can pull out the old Boston accent. I only lived there for 8 years. I was born and raised in Winchester, Massachusetts, a little suburb about 15 minutes outside of Boston, but beautiful area. Beautiful area. Love the attitude of people who live in Boston. It's not New York, but there's a lot of attitude, that's for sure.
Yeah, so tonight I'm staying in Worcester. So
I'm
nice. Not in Boston tonight. I will be in Boston in the city tomorrow in a much nicer hotel.
Nice.
But yeah, no. So yeah, I was in New York and Connecticut earlier today, and then I just popped in here, tonight. So I got a meeting tomorrow, and then get to have fun the rest of the weekend. But
that's fantastic. Got to enjoy yourself while you're out there. Before we get to your topic, let's honor Chris Royal super chat here and start off with that one, Sean. Was trying to sneak on, but some family came over. Family, always getting in the way, Chris. Question, what is your expectation for our running back room? Thanks, my dude. Thank you, Chris. All right, so I see the running back room shaping out with Elijah Mitchell being the number one back, but number one back with an asterisk, because I see this season being much more aligned with 2019, where we had a three-headed monster. You had Raheem Mostert, you had Tevin Coleman, and you had Matt Breida. And by the end of the year, the touches, the yards, everything was fairly evenly split. I think we have the possibility of hitting that again this season, where you have Elijah Mitchell continuing what we saw last year. You have a heavy investment in TDP coming in as a third-round draft pick, and Trey Sermon potentially rising into the form or the role that the 49ers saw for him last year when they used that draft pick to pair him alongside of Trey Lance, operating more from the shotgun, and therefore a more comfortable formation for Trey Sermon. I could see all three of them having good years. I would favor TDP and Elijah if I'm picking in fantasy football by a wide margin, but I'm not taking any of them early in a fantasy football draft because I don't trust any of them to be the lead back. I think any one of them could get the most carries. Any one of them could get the most yards. I see the fourth body in the room being Jeff Wilson Jr., handling the third down back role. He has soft hands. You saw that in the Arizona game in 2019 with that beautiful catch coming off of the bench. And I would say that I think it's going to be a very, very good running back room. I think JaMychal Hasty ends up on the practice squad. How do you see it breaking out, Sean? Do you think that that's an apt assessment, or do you have a different opinion?
No, I think I agree with most what you said. I would say Hasty will most likely be the odd man out. The only thing in this that is the unknown is, although we drafted TDP, I don't know how smart the dude is, right? And that's one thing that Elijah Mitchell was credited by Shanahan, was how smart he was getting the playbook.
He picked it up really quickly.
He
Yeah.
was the number 3 back. Remember, he didn't pick it up as a number 1 back. He came in as a rookie and held it down knowing he wasn't going to see the field unless there were injury. So if TDP can do the same thing, have a great OTAs and really get that playbook down, then I like your depth chart. The one thing we do know is Jeff Wilson Jr. doesn't need to worry about the playbook. So he's already there.
He knows that.
He may be eclipsed by overall ability and talent by one of the younger guys, but that's one thing that for me, I would say it's going to be our bell cow is going to be Mitchell. TDP, hopefully, but that's up to him. We'll see if he can grasp the playbook. Then I think Jeff Wilson. Now I know we're all saying, well, what about Mr. Ohio State and Sermon? Unless he's done whatever the team has asked him to do in the offseason, whether that was to get lighter, get heavier, whatever it was, none of us know.
Right.
If he did that and came in and is at that ability, then everything changes for me. I could see Jeff Wilson being the odd man out as well. So that's where the unknown is. So I'm completely just projecting, but as long as he did what they asked him to do, I think Sermon has a chance. I don't think they want to get rid of a 3rd-round draft pick.
I don't either. I mean, you could maybe see them trading him because then you save some face. You're like, well, it just wasn't a fit. We learned that last year and we recouped some value. But unless you trade him, like you're not cutting a 3rd-round draft pick from that would be admitting your mistake. And the 49ers don't seem to want to do that early. I mean, look at how long they held on to Jalen Hurd or Dante Pettis, right? They rode those situations out to try and show the original value that they saw in those players. But you could be in a Joe Williams type of a situation. It's not unprecedented for the 49ers to have to move on from a running back that they invested a considerable amount in.
But I also think the Joe Williams situation would be a little bit different if Shanahan would have foreseen the amount of abuse that position takes in his scheme with a quarterback who's a statue. Right. Now, things could change this year with having, again, I don't know the exact scheme he's going to put in with Lance, but let's assume it's a lot more movement. It's not, well, we know this is a passing down. Right. Oh, well, this play guaranteed he's lined up here. Shanahan only throws with Garoppolo in this situation. So if there's unknown and there's versatility and there's ability to check at the line, assuming Trey has got that down now in year 2, I think we'll take less abuse because there's going to be more on the defense. I really feel like the reason our running backs got hurt outside of Mostert, because he just got hurt on the first second.
Right, that was a fluke. Yeah.
I feel like when the defenses know their keys when playing against Shanahan's scheme, the running backs, if they're not a Mostert type cut and a Mostert type speed, they get the brunt of the end of the play. Whether it's 5 yards down the field or 10 or 2, they get smoked because they're already anticipating the keys of his scheme. Now, if Lance can be the deciding factor in that as to maybe I hand off, maybe I pull, now that's where Deebo and some of the quick game can come into play to now put those guys on their heels. Because what's Shanahan's number one thing in his scheme is to show the same exact formation and run it 4 different ways.
Yeah, same look, different result.
And that's where Jimmy, when a lot of people out there say, oh, well, Jimmy doesn't allow him to expand the playbook. Well, it's not the playbook. It's the playbook of the play. He's limited in what he can do with the formation because of Garoppolo. So in this case, if he can now have 3 or 4 different plays off of the exact same formation, now everybody is a lot more free because the keys on the defense can change instantly, which is what Shanahan is great at. Yeah. It's just when it comes to 3rd and 4th quarter, when they've seen that for 3 quarters and they get gashed, minus Carolina in 19, they never figured it out. That's when the game gets a little bit tighter and snuggier, and that's where 3rd down efficiency from our quarterback's important.
Rohan's agreeing with you. Atlanta, Shanahan had the consistency with Freeman and Coleman for both of his Atlanta years, has had to realize the beating the running backs take and adjust the past few years to accommodate. In alignment with what you are saying there. I want to bring in another super chat here. This one's on an off topic that I will answer quickly, but definitely want to get to it. Abraham coming in to ask, Rob, where can I get a map 2 of the stadiums? This little stadium map. So I got it. I believe, Abraham, I got it from Etsy, right? Somebody on Etsy made that thing. They shipped it out in a little tube, and then I went and got it framed. So that's why it kind of looks cool like that. I got all the little pins from NFL Shop, bought those from the league. so that I could get the official ones. But I will double check because I'm sure I have the receipt of where I got it. Hit me up, email me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com to remind me. I'll look up the receipt and I'll tell you exactly where I got it. And that way you can share that information. And I appreciate you coming in with the super chat to throw that out there. All right, I'm going to comb through because I know there are a couple of questions in the chat that I want to get to. But Sean, what do you have on your mind? What was your feelings around the schedule when that came out? And what are your feelings around where the 49ers are going to rank in the NFC West versus the rest of the division?
Sure. So I jumped on only for Swan Song. I was late, so I finally was able to jump in here. So I don't know what happened earlier in the show, but I want to jump on a few things there. So what if Trey Lance gives you, here's a question for you, Rob. What if Trey Lance gives you 3,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 picks with a passer rating of 98? What if he gives us that over 17 games this year?
I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled with that outcome. And I think it probably leads to a 12-5 or a 13-4 record.
Okay, so who do you think was the last quarterback for the 49ers to give us those stats?
I feel like Jimmy got pretty close to those stats in 2019.
Sorry, bud. Those were Jimmy's stats last year.
Okay, I'm telling you, if we get Jimmy's stats on this roster from Trey Lance with those legs, I think that is another couple of wins on what we got last year.
So the reason I bring that up was off of the last one, right? We're talking, predictions on the score. So last week I said 12-5. That's where I thought we were at. I said we could be better if Trey's legit. That's the word I used, okay? And we would be as bad as he is. I mean, at the end of the day, because there's no backup on our team. Jimmy ain't going to be there, so it ain't Sudfeld.
You mean you don't have faith in Nate Sudfeld, Sean? I mean, this is Nate Sudfeld disparaging right here.
If you get paid $2 million with the taxes in California, you basically make the same money I do. So I'm pretty sure we're good to go. No, but the reason I say that is, let's use it like reverse this, right? So everything's like, God, get Jimmy out of here. He holds it back. He's this, he's that, etc. Okay, well, he gave us I'm looking at it right here, 3,810 yards, 20 tuds, 12 picks, and 98 rating. We're in the NFC Championship. So I'm not Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo guy over here wearing the hat trying to say, please come back. That's not me ever in this. I'm past all that.
No.
But that's what he gave us in a season where everybody said he was horseshit.
Right.
So if we can take another crap season like that statistically, supposedly, because that's so bad, then we should be a 3-loss team at max. And that just means because every team loses. It's hard to go undefeated. There's no reason if Trey gives us – yeah. So if Trey gives us those stats, just give me that right there. You give me those stats and add in, obviously, you're going to have more rushing TDs than Jimmy.
Obviously.
Well, then we're obviously number one in the West. I mean –
You would think so.
Like we talked about, they play the Bills and the Packers. In my opinion, those are 2 losses. Now, obviously, the Bills can lay an egg week 1. Week 1's weird, right? Everybody just plays weird week 1. But let's just say the Bills come out on fire, pissed off from the way their last season ended against Mahomes. Let's just say they win that game. Well, Green Bay's not a better team this year. But either way, Rams don't play well in that environment. They lost last year in it after a bye. So there's no way McVay's that great going in there. So let's say it's another loss. So looking at the Rams schedule, we play all the other teams like they do. So, and we play them twice. So you had us losing both games of the Rams or 1-1 last week?
I believe I had us dropping both in that one.
Okay. So the only way we don't win the division is if you're right.
Yeah.
Because to me, if Trey Lance gives me those stats right there, and then we know in the Rams games, most of the time it doesn't come down to how good Jimmy is, unless it's a 19-year week 16 where he had to throw and hit Emmanuel Sanders deep for the winning field goal. We haven't needed him in those games. He's always hit the 10-yard passes, quick touchdowns, easy stuff in the red zone. So if Trey can just be legit, then our defense is going to – I'm telling you, the defense is going to hold it down. He has to score 24 points a game. That's what he needs to score.
I agree with
it. I don't care how he does it. No.
The defense will hold it down. I agree with Randall Riley coming in here that I see on paper a defense very capable of being a top 3. And therefore, it should remove some of the pressure from Trey Lance, remove the requirement that he put up considerable points. It should roll out in a way where complementary run game that could be very dominant as well. Trey Lance puts up those statistics you talked about, 3,800 plus yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions with an elite defense. That should produce a successful season. That should put the Niners on top in the NFC West, I would think.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to – we'll talk about clutch moments. So I want to go back to the last one. I think it was Swan. You guys were talking, and you agreed. You said, oh, Tarts dropped interception. Oh, that wasn't as big as it was, and Emmanuel Sanders wasn't as big as it was. Well, here's where I completely go against that.
Yeah.
And you know this from being at many games. Momentum in every game is unbelievably huge, right? Doesn't matter road or home. It's unbelievably huge.
Yep.
Let's make sure we bring back exactly when both of those happened. Okay, we'll just go most recently. We were winning 17-14 when he dropped that pick on the 35-yard line.
Yep.
They ended up with a field goal to tie the game. Okay. The reason I say that is they went touchdown, field goal. We went basically 2 and out, 2 drives out, bam, nothing. Interception ends the game. If you're at 17-14 and you pick that ball off on the 35, you don't think our defense all of a sudden has a whole new rejuvenation, up 3 points, going out there to stop them to tie the game versus now going back out there with a tie game being scored on twice and getting driven down on for a field goal winner? Same thing if you go to the Super Bowl. We gave up 2 straight scores, right? 2 straight scores on the defense, a 3rd and 15, then they came back after Jimmy went 3 and out or 5 and out. They go down, they score again, right? 2 quick touchdowns. If he hits Emmanuel Sanders on that, we now have the lead again in the Super Bowl. The defense would be completely different in terms of momentum and would have been on a different level from just – you know how this is from a leadership perspective. Your adrenaline and everything takes a completely different high, and theirs goes down. The game would have been different.
So I 100% agree with that. And that's what I said earlier was, yes, the game would have been different. No doubt about that. Game would have been different in both of those instances. What I won't go so far as to say is that momentum would have assuredly guaranteed the 49ers a win in either case, because in the Super Bowl, our defense was leaking like a sieve. So at that point, would the momentum have shifted? Yes. Would the offense have come alive after that? I believe so. Could the defense have taken that moment and propelled themselves to a new level? I'm not entirely sure of that. They looked gassed at that point, and I'm not convinced that it would have been different. Could it have been different? Yes. Could it have been a win? Yes, it certainly would have been a different outcome altogether, different score, but I'm not convinced of a win. More so in the Rams game that it could have been a difference maker. But again, I go back to the offense was the unit that was really clearly struggling at the end of that game. And if we had intercepted it as a punt, really, and then failed to move the ball at all, we would have just given the ball back to them. It would have changed the way in which McVay attacked us. They may have gotten a touchdown instead of a field goal. What I saw from the Rams offense leads me to believe that they were moving the ball a little bit against us in the end of that game. So again, could it have turned out different? Yes, but I don't see either one of those plays as assuredly giving the Niners the win in either scenario.
Okay. Yeah, and I cannot assure anything either, right? We can't predict that. But so let's go on to the other one too. You guys are talking about Shanahan. You know that I'm like the reverse of what most people think, right? I don't see him as a failure in those games. So here's the thing, right? So he's only known for the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl collapse. So let's go to other games that are just as big, because if you don't win those games, you don't even get to the other games.
Right.
What about in Green Bay in front of you when he decided to run on 3rd and 7 with Deebo up the middle?
So gorgeous. So gorgeous.
Well, what if it didn't work?
Oh, he would have gotten shredded. It would have been a cowardice play call. It would have been admitting defeat. It would have been old school. Like, oh, come on. Be more like McVay. Take some risks. Have some balls. For sure.
Right. So what did he do in the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan? He put the ball in his hands. He just happened to sack fumble. He happened to make mistakes. So that's fine. Players make mistakes. But
sure.
I mean, he would, like he said, if I knew you were going to fumble, I'd call run. So you go back to our game in the NFC Championship. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo is still your quarterback. He's not elite. Everyone knows that. Now, granted, he has come back on the Rams. He came back on the Packers. He's come back on but still, like, what else would you ask for him in that situation? Give the ball to Deebo on 3rd and 12? Like what else is he supposed to do? Like, we have Garoppolo. You got to go back, drop back, and pass. Our O-line, other than one player who was hurt in Williams, they're hunting. You got Von Miller, you got freaking Donald and the rest of them hunting at that point. What else were you going to ask for out of the guy? Like, I mean, at that point, you're toast. I mean, it is what it is. So to me, he's won big games to get to that point. How many other coaches have an NFC championship and a Super Bowl appearance 2 out of the last 3 years?
Very few.
Simple. 0. I mean, literally. Well, I guess you can say Andy Reid. Andy Reid has 2.
Andy Reid.
But he has Mahomes, right? So to me, like, I know we want to bash on Shanahan, etc.
Well, just to be clear though, because I do want to clarify this, I do not bash on Shanahan. Like, that is my criticism of him. I would not trade him for any other coach in the league at this point. I like Shanahan. I want to keep him, and I criticize him for that. Just wanted to point that out. But please continue.
You're right. I guess bash is a strong word, but I guess because I see it a lot, right? From comments and stuff.
Oh, no, you're right to say that people do. I just want to clarify, I'm not one of those people that you're referencing.
Gotcha. My fault. So you're right. I wouldn't trade him for anybody either. Here's the reason why. What is Miami now going to do? Oh, run Shanahan scheme. What is Green Bay, the most winningest coach the last 3 seasons? Where did he come from? Oh, yeah, Shanahan. Now, Saleh hasn't won, but I mean, it's like winning in Detroit. Good luck.
Yeah,
in New York.
That's tough.
I don't care.
That's tough.
I know you had a great draft, but check this out. He screwed himself anyways by having a great draft. Now your expectations are here in a Jets with Zach Wilson and those guys. Oh, man, you in trouble. But outside of him, everyone's trying to adopt the Shanahan scheme. Everybody's drawing coaches from him. So, nobody's trying to take the Belichick scheme. Belichick's a defensive guy. Josh McDaniels been with him forever. Josh McDaniels didn't do a damn thing in Denver. He had Tebow.
That was rough.
He's going to the Raiders. Let's see if the game you're going to, and I'll be at with you, January 1st, if that even matters for that football team in that division. Because not only does that division play each other, they also play who?
The NFC West.
So let's not look at it just in those goggles, right? They have the same goggles looking at our division like, well, if there's anyone in the NFC, I wouldn't want to play the West.
Absolutely.
And everyone wonders why the top 3 teams with 5 primetime games, oh, son of a gun, it's the AFC West and the NFC West. That's not by accident. We play each other. Play each other, right? Yeah. So this is my thing, too, with Trey. If he gives me those stats that I still have pulled up right here, just give me that crappy Jimmy Garoppolo from 2021, that joker that we had as a quarterback that just got us to the NFC Championship somehow.
Right.
Give me those stats, and we're like, oh, man, hallelujah. The only difference is Jimmy was good on 3rd down, and he was accurate in the clutch downs, not all game, but in the clutch downs. If Trey can give me that with this defense, Rob, there's only 2 or 3 games based on schedule and based on him being young that I can see us losing. Our defense isn't going to get worse. We can't predict ACLs in every level, right?
No,
so to me,
no, you cannot. You got to say, hey, if healthy, this is what's happening on D.
Yeah, so here we go. We're 19 days through May. What'd I say? Give me to the end of June. Let me see what happened with Trey Lance. Let's get the eyeballs on him. If he's turned into, forget the crap everybody talks about. If he turns into what Steve Young said from the maximizing of what Steve Young said.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing on paper from any of those teams that, that put
sky's the limit at that point. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about a question that 420 Savage brings in that applies to the defense and could be an X factor that we all don't know at this point. Okay. Bringing in this one. I want Drake Jackson to get 10 or 12 sacks as a rookie. Am I dreaming? I don't know if I'd go so far to say dreaming. I think there's a chance, right? Anytime that you have a dominant defensive line with Nick Bosa on one side, who's going to draw double teams, considerable effort from the O-line, from the offense, there's a chance that Drake Jackson could be a breakout in that regard. I'm not betting money on it. I would probably put him more in the range of 7 or 8 sacks to call it a great rookie season. But this defense, again, has such the potential to be elite then I'm not going to say it's dreaming.
So I'm just going to do simple math like I'm a spreadsheet. So if we have 17 games and you're going to tell me Drake Jackson can get a sack every other game, I don't care at what moment, every other game, then he gets either 8 or 9. Every other game. Here's the reason why I say 10 to 12 sacks as a rookie. Sure. I don't see any problem with him getting that under 2 conditions. Number 1, our cornerbacks are as good as our cornerbacks look. If Ferret is good, we have Ward on the other side. If they stay healthy, yes, because we're going to be a lot of third and longs. Because our front 7 is going to be putting the running game in a position to where they're going to have to pass. I don't care who the team we are playing. It'll be just like it was Super Bowl 2019. That's why they had 10 points with 7 minutes left in the game. Then you're going to be able to hunt a lot more often.
Yes,
now,
you are.
How did Aldon Smith? Everyone thought he was a god his rookie year, right? Well, he only came in on 3rd downs. Well, how did he have
pass rush specialist?
And how did he have 6 sacks in one game? Well, very simple. We had 3rd and 10 or longer in every one of those situations, and he had Justin Smith next to him.
I was going to say he had Justin Smith bear hugging multiple guys at once.
But here's the thing, though, right? So if Kinlaw, who is supposed to be best shape, ready to rock, good to go, amazing. Again, don't know, just like Lance. I don't know. I'm just going to trust what I hear and see. If he is as crazy as they say he is, then he should be guaranteed with Bosa on that side of the line, suffocating the center over every single time. So if that tells me that Armstead and Jackson are going to be one-on-one, well, I mean, why have 10 to 12 sacks? I mean, you only need one every other game. So you tell me you can't get 10 to 12? He'd have to get injured to be, or suck. Well, that's the unknown. You'd have to be terrible or injured to not by default get all the sacks that in 2019, who got? D Ford got. Who's the guy we let go at that? Hyder got.
Kerry Hyder, who's back.
Random guys. Yeah, all the random guys. He'll suck in every single one of those.
That's the one question mark as far as Jackson racking up the sacks is you have so many contributors that the sacks could get spread around if they keep the legs fresh and keep rotating the packages. That would be the only criticism of him potentially getting there. But the opportunity is available to the young gentleman. If he's able to crack that pass rush specialist role and come in on those 3rd and longs, I agree with you. There could be a lot of 3rd and longs, so he'll get a lot of opportunities. It's just whether he's able to capitalize on those opportunities.
And to me, like, I'm not a big sack guy. Like, if someone was to say, hey, give me a stat you want your D lineman to have, I want the D lineman to push the quarterback off his spot to change his arm angle and let our defense hunt. Because
so are you looking at pressures then?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly right. I want to make sure that quarterback is changing the way he's throwing the ball because of you. Why? I'd rather not a sack and a punt. My field position's way down there. I want the guy catching the ball, running towards the quarterback, and putting the ball on my side of the field for Trey Lance to walk into, 1 first down and we have 3 points. Because that's what Jimmy had in 2019.
Yeah, exactly. Starting field position.
Yeah, 1 first down, boom. So that's where, to me, I want to see the biggest thing, because they feared D Ford, right? Because no one even knew who Bosa
they absolutely did.
No one knew who Bosa was in 19. He was just that rookie drafted number 2.
Right.
And he came in and it was like, he's as good as Ford on the other side because Ford was healthy. Damn, we better pay attention to him. Well, then they double team him 2021 with 1,500 holding penalties that weren't called, and he still got 15 and a half sacks. So just imagine if you bookend him now with Kinlaw being legit, because who was legit in 19 next to Bosa? Buckner.
Yeah, Buckner, right. I was going to say, why am I blanking on that? Before we traded him, Buck.
Give him Kinlaw. Be Buckner of year 2. I'm not asking you to be Buckner, the All-Pro. Just suck in the guard to you with the center. Don't let the guard bail to Bosa. As long as we can do that, we're one-on-one on the other side. Now, Drake Jackson, you have no excuse.
I'm telling you, there's going to be the opportunity for it. I absolutely believe that. Sean, this has been fantastic. I'm going to hit Bullpup down below to close out this show. Get out of here by 6:30. I hope that you have a fantastic freaking weekend in Boston. Get some good food while you're out there. Make sure that you find somewhere that has some delicious New England style lobster rolls. It'd be more ideal if you were up in Maine or Rhode Island, but you're going to be able to get some good lobster rolls out there in Boston. It's just that good open-sided hot dog bun, get it nice and golden brown with the butter. To me, it's got to be the mayo served style. I'm not a hot butter kind of guy for the lobster roll. My personal take is the mayo, but get whichever suits your fancy.
Well, I don't want to disappoint you because I did see half the show was about food. But I did. I was like, what's this about food? Like, I don't even have anything to talk about. No, but I'm not a seafood guy. I'm really not a seafood guy. So, what I will say is I will definitely get a sourdough bowl of clam chowder at Game On Bar.
Yes.
I'll be at Game On Bar, corner of Fenway tomorrow night, downstairs until the game starts. And, you don't want me to call in at that point. This would be a whole different call.
Hey man, get your party on. You're in Boston. It is a good city for doing that, my friend. It's great talking to you as always, Sean.
You too, Rob. All right, Faithful.
Take care, brother.
You too.
All right, we are bringing Bullpup 33 into the stream to take us home. Bullpup, how you doing?
Rob, my man, how are you?
I am well, feeling good. Feel like this has been a quality call-in show. Good topics coming through the pipeline. Good contributions from the chat. I'm loving it.
Way to put me on the spot to close it out.
After a great show, let me just throw you in here and say, all right, now handle the closing duties. I need you to knock them out 1, 2, 3 here in the bottom of the 9th.
Challenge accepted. Here we go.
I love it.
Let's start with this. If you ever in New York, New Jersey area, specifically in Hoboken, if you're ever in the Italian festival, oh my Lord. Some of those street vendors like homemade sausages, the ones that go like curl. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
I am Italian, you have my number with that one. I went to Italy back in like 2017, I want to say. Hit Switzerland and northern Italy and just ate my way through that country. It's unbelievable. Fresh pasta, fresh food. There's just nothing like it. Nothing like it. So yeah, I would be all over that festival.
Oh yeah, it's if you like those like those bratwursts and those sausages. Oh yeah, amazing.
It's good stuff. That is good stuff. Well, I appreciate the recommendation. Absolutely.
So here we go. So let's be positive. Why not? Why not?
Let's do it. I'm all for positivity.
Okay, so let's end the show on a good note here. Let's talk positives. So let's start with our quarterback, Trey.
Yes, Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, one thing that I haven't heard anyone in the media say or in the show, Trey Lance has an enormous opportunity.
Very true.
This is akin to me being a law student and getting like an internship with like the Supreme Court.
That's fair. I mean, I gotta give Chris Sims credit. He gets a lot of flack from 49ers fans for where he ranked Trey Lance, but he did acknowledge that Trey Lance is in the best possible scenario within the league, that he is on possibly the most talented team in the league. And he acknowledged that by the end of the year, he could shoot up those rankings because of that opportunity for success. So very much in alignment with what you're saying here.
So look at it this way. Guys his age are in Alabama, Toledo, Ohio, SoCal. You know, they're playing football against their peers, against, you know, the Pac-12, against the Big Ten, or you know, what have you.
Right.
Trey Lance is learning. It's OJT, baby.
Oh,
he's bypassing college. He is OJT.
On the
he
job
is learning
training,
at
right?
the source.
Yes.
Guys his age would kill to be in his position.
Yes, they would. To get drafted, because those guys are getting drafted by teams that are garbage. I mean, ask Trevor Lawrence, right? When you're the number 1 overall pick, when you're the number 2 overall pick, when you are the number 3 overall pick, traditionally, You're coming to a team that sucked in order to earn said draft pick.
Exactly. So instead of, granted, you're not partying on campus with all your buddies and all that, but you know
Right.
what? You're learning straight from Shanahan.
Yes.
You're not learning from some washed out guy who couldn't make it in the NFL. You're learning from Kyle Shanahan.
The best.
Now, I think that's like the best. Like, okay, yeah, do you want to finish partying in school? Very attractive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When you're the king of campus and, all of the ladies fawn over you, you get invited to all the parties. I'm sure I've not lived that life, but I'm sure it's a good life. I'm sure it's hard to give up to then become a scrub in the NFL, right? Someone that has to then prove themselves all over again. But to your point, you're giving all that up to come into an amazing situation, one that very few top caliber quarterbacks ever have the opportunity to be in.
Metal sharpens metal, right? Or fire sharpens metal, whatever the old saying goes.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron is definitely one of them for sure.
So you're going up in practice against a guy who could be a second round or third round pick in the NFL if you go to like Notre Dame or Ohio State. Good for you. Right. In your practice, you're going up against Fred Warner.
Yes. One of the best middle linebackers to do it.
Exactly. You're going up against Jimmy Ward, Nick Bosa.
Elite defense.
You're going up against an elite defense with a fantastic head coach, play caller.
Yes.
Play designer.
I agree.
So if I'm him, I would be, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be working my tail off during the off season. I would be hitting the books, hitting the gym, whatever it took.
I agree. And that does seem to be with every little bit of information that we get about Trey Lance, which granted is not a whole lot. I think we have a lack of information, which is where everyone begins to hallucinate about what the outcome is going to be. But I think Dan is correct here in saying that Trey, from all appearances, seems like Mr. Football to Dan. I agree with Dan in that statement. I see Trey working. I see Trey in the books. I hear about Trey's work ethic. No one that I've heard that's a credible source has said anything disparaging about what he puts into it. So it does seem as if he's taking this opportunity for what it is, that it's a huge opportunity for him. It doesn't appear he's taking it for granted.
And one thing that I personally have never seen, I'm not going to say that it's true. Yeah. I'm just going to rely on what people say, is the professionalism that Jimmy showed during last year. Mm-hmm. Had to rub off on Trey.
You would think so. It's hard not to observe how well Jimmy handled a pretty shitty situation, if we're being frank.
Yep. Jimmy learned from Tom. Tom passed it on to Jimmy. Jimmy's passing it on to Trey.
Yeah, even if just through osmosis, right? Even if Jimmy did not take Trey under his arm, which it would seem that he did to some degree with how Trey talked about Jimmy in that final presser. Trey said something along the lines of, Jimmy and I have become close friends, and I envision us being close friends for the remainder of our lives together. Now, Jimmy wasn't quite as warm and fuzzy in reiterating that about Trey, but if that was Trey's impression of Jimmy, then he must have been taken under his wing to some degree for him to say that.
Agreed. So, and again, I wasn't in the locker room. I wasn't in those meetings. Right. But it all indicates that, he's learning how to be a professional.
Yes, he is.
So he's learning how to be a professional. He's learning how to be a quarterback in the NFL, which is, I think, is one of the hardest positions of all the sports, period.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Certainly one of, if not the most demanding positions within sports. I mean, so much goes through that one position, so much responsibility on that one position, so much glory and so much blame. It is probably the most difficult position in sports.
So I see Trey. One thing that I saw last year was, to be on the positive side, was number one, I saw improvement from outing to outing.
Yes, absolutely. From week 5 to week 17, vast improvement in my estimation.
Even from the first half to the second half of the Houston game.
Yes, I agree.
So I think that's something that we all should look forward to. We can lean against that. So it looks to me like he is, like Mr. Football, where he's doing his part. He wants to succeed.
Yes, he does seem to have the drive necessary for success.
And then when you compare that, so as little football as he's had, when you compare him his first year versus Alex Smith's first year, Alex Smith was a good quarterback in college.
He was. He most definitely was.
And then he struggled mightily his first year. Now we can talk about coordinators, systems, what have you. That's fine.
That was brutally ugly, right? I mean, not throwing his first touchdown until the end of the year, essentially.
Yes. So what I noticed from Trey was the moment was not too big for him, even on his first start.
Yes. He seemed to have that confidence at the line of scrimmage. He had the aura of a starting quarterback. He did not look frazzled. He didn't look like the moment was too big for him. I did not get that impression.
No, not at all. And that's something very commendable for someone his age with his lack of playing time.
Do you share, speaking of the lack of playing time, HR, Sneakerhead here on the channel comes in to say, I'd sure feel a lot better about Trey next year, this coming year, if Shanny would have invested a little more effort into him this past season. Now, effort may be an interpretation of it, but certainly he wasn't given very many opportunities in game. You could argue that he didn't earn those, and that might be fair. We don't have the complete behind the scenes look. But do you share that you wish Trey had gotten more snaps, more opportunities last year so that he'd be better prepared this year? Or are you contented with last year's season, the way that it played out, going with Jimmy Garoppolo and that end result?
Again, for his age, let's not forget, man, he's young.
He's going to be the youngest quarterback in the league this year. This year, not last year, this year.
Yeah, and he really didn't play for COVID season, right?
Right. One game.
Yeah, so no, you don't throw him to the wolves. I'm sorry.
I like that.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I feel good about how last season turned out, and so I'm comfortable with the way in which I get this, that he doesn't have much experience because he didn't get to play last year. I was okay with the way last year turned out, so I don't regret the fact that Trey has less experience this year.
And he was going up in practice again against guys like Fred Warner, Jamie Ward, Nick Bosa. I mean, what more do you want?
Right? No, he was getting some experience, not in-game experience, but very good practice experience, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's, I envision him. It's going to be. He kind of reminds me, and I hope everyone doesn't take it the wrong way. He kind of reminds me of a Michael Jordan type.
Interesting.
He kind of has that little. I see that little silent but deadly demeanor about him.
That would be phenomenal to have that type of an edge to a guy with that much skill. Like
that smile, the quirky little smile. Like, okay, you got me this time, but wait till next. I do. I don't know why, but I do see that.
I would love it. Dan coming in to point out, first career start, didn't have Kittle and almost beat a hot Arizona team. And on defense, I think in that game didn't have Jimmy Ward or Tart and still almost won that game. I'm optimistic. Yeah. I'm fired up.
I think he can do it.
What do you see as, before I let you go, it's hitting the 6:30 hour. I got to get rolling. The beam of sunlight behind me is going to turn me into a witness protection program man in just a moment. But what do you see as your prediction for the schedule, the outcome this year? What's the record for the San Francisco 49ers?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one because we are talking about an unknown quantity in Trey.
Yep. Tough schedule. Tough games.
Yeah, tough schedule. It's one of those where it's 50-50. We can either have like a 9-win kind of season or a 13-win kind of season. I can see it either way.
Wide variance. And is the X factor there purely Trey Lance for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a quarterback league.
Yep. That makes sense. Well, I hope that we make it closer to that 13-win season than that 9-win season.
I can see it.
Me too. Fantastic call, Bullpup. I always appreciate coming on here, having great interactions. Thank you so much for being a part of it.
All right, man.
Take care. All right, let me close this thing out here. I absolutely appreciate all of you that have been here in the chat, hanging out. I want to see, let's see this. Brash Cat came in with the @Rob Schuh. Didn't I hear you say you have a video about what equipment camera you're using for vids? Which one? No, I do not have a video. I have a sheet where I break down everything that I have. If you want to know any of the equipment that I use, reach out to me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. I'm happy to interact with anybody, any direct questions that you have. I appreciate it. If you are still here, I appreciate it. I hope you can hit that like button for me on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Hit the notification bell so that you know when I go live. And make sure that you turn on notifications for YouTube on whatever platform you are using it. I love that we have some Rams fans in here celebrating their team. Hey, I give you credit for the Super Bowl win last year. Let's see if you can do it again. Let's see if we cannot knock you off this year. That's going to be the goal. 420 Savage coming in to say, good show. I agree wholeheartedly. And Jan coming in, Rob Schuh. If you're going to Mexico, check out the best ever food review show on Mexico. I will. I am going to go to the game in Mexico City. That's the plan, as long as I can get my passport renewed in time. I've heard that it's a hell of a delay on passport renewals right now. I am looking forward to going out to Mexico City, looking forward to seeing a game on international soil. Yes, please. Look at that. The Rams fan, I show respect. Rams fans show respect. This is the way the world should be. Bowser Zilla coming in. Much love, NFC West. I feel you there. I feel you. Hey, I'm glad that the title came home to the NFC West. I wish it had come home to San Francisco, but you absolutely did earn it there. Michael coming in to say, you're cool, Rob. Let's go Rams. Hey, Michael, you're cool too, and you are respectful, and I appreciate that. So you can always come in and pull for your team. I respect fans of all teams within the NFL, and especially those where we have a healthy rivalry. Maybe I have a little less respect for Seahawks fans, but come on. Those Rams fans in the chat, you got to agree with me on that. They're rough. They're rough. I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully going to be on with Grant. We had to cancel last week because he was going to be at that mini camp. I should be on his channel tomorrow. I will be back with Jack Hammer on my program here on my channel. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see when I'm about to go live at The Left Shoe. This was a phenomenal show. I appreciate all of you for being here. I will see you all again soon. And until then, cheers, faithful.